Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Bill Allen sitting in for Winston today. Got a special guest coming up and what I hope is a good show for you. Let's start by looking at our weather today. You got a high of 82 and a low of 68. Okay, the reason we've got a high of 82 is because we got a northeast wind at 10 to 15 miles an hour, and there's still a continuation of this rain, but about a 40% chance of rain Thursday. So yeah, it's starting to feel a lot better. The humidity's less. It's getting to be that exciting time of year, especially when it comes to fishing. Oh, and hunting as well. Tides. High today is at 9:46 a.m. and the low is at 6:42 p.m. The peak time today, which is listed as very high activity, is at 10:56 a.m. to 12:56 p.m. So that 11 to 1 during the middle of the day. The water temperature is at 84, which for those of you who are keeping track of it, that's come down several degrees here just lately. Also something else to look forward to. Sunrise today is one of those odd days. Sunrise is at 6:33 and sunset is at 6:33, according to this. So let's take a look at our river readings. You got Apalachicola at Bluntstown is 3.2, and it's pretty much holding steady through Saturday. Choctawhatchee at Caryville is 1.5. Of course, it's affected a little more by local rain, and it's going up through Friday to about 2.7. As always, when these rivers are very low, there's a lot of things sticking up that you may not be aware of. So, you know, run those creeks and run the river carefully. And as I've said since we lost a friend a few years ago, I've always got a life jacket on when I'm running now. I didn't before, but I've got it on now. You get these smaller ones that are inflatable. They don't take up a lot of room. Just makes a lot of sense to do it. So if you weren't doing it like me, you need to think about it. Don't wait till something serious happens. Wear that life jacket. So we're going to take a quick break, come right back with our special guest. Hey, welcome back. We got a familiar face, my good buddy, fishing partner, and everything else, Mr. Greg Brudnicki. What's going on?
Good morning.
Another day in paradise?
Yeah, I couldn't get Winston to give me one of these shirts, so I went to the Goodwill. They were out, so I ended up buying it from Carl Andrews.
Oh my God.
So Carl sold me this shirt.
You know, you'd think he'd come up with something, you know, every now and then, just for the effort. You know?
79 cents went there.
Well, speaking of effort, you know, the scallop season just ended, and it was a difficult season to say the least. And I did think, and for those of you that went, you know, the weather was not favorable. We had very poor conditions as far as being able to see scallops and that kind of thing. And I just thought it would be interesting to, and this was a trip that I wasn't on for reasons I couldn't control, but you guys came up with but employed a technique to persevere and find scallops in that unseeable conditions.
Yeah, I think Billy Perry perfected it, but what happened was, you know, we didn't get out there until the end of August, and so a lot of the places were picked through, and there wasn't that much to pick from. So we got into a few places where the water was a little bit deeper, and we were finding them with our feet on the edges of the holes, going up probably 4 or 5 steps up from the edges of the holes where they were buried.
Yeah.
So I'd take my feet with the booties on and just kind of inch along up about 4 or 5 feet and then go over and then come back and forth. There were several times that I stepped on some really good scallops, and that's the way Billy was finding them. It was very hard for the girls because most of the time it was in water that was 5 foot deep, and so then you've got to go up and then porpoise down and stand on your head to get them. And the difficult part is you find them with your feet, but then when you get down there, because you're in that mud, well, hell, it's all just cloudy. You can't see a thing when you go down there, so it's strictly with your hands. And so you had to wear gloves, well, unless you wanted to be tough and pull urchins out of your fingers all the time, and reach down and get them. And I probably grabbed 50 spider crabs. So I'd come porpoising up, and I'd have to push that off to the side. But we found a lot of good ones doing that. I guess over the period of a week, we found about 22, 24 gallons of scallops, which is not. It's probably better than a lot of people did.
10 people we're talking about.
Well, we had, most of the time in the boat, and so it was slim pickings. But we all went home with some. I made some ceviche. We enjoyed it, but they were really, really good size. I mean, some really good, good size.
Selects.
Yes, they were selects. There were some really nice ones.
Well, and you definitely had an advantage over everybody else with those size 16 feet.
Well,
you covered a lot more territory.
I do, but still, it's and it helps swimming, but it's not comfortable when your feet get scraped inside the fins because they fill up the holes, and there's some real disadvantages to having goofy big feet. Believe me, I've had
it was a lot of work, but you guys prevailed, right?
Yeah. We had a grand time. And you talked about the weather. We really had, except for the first day, we had great weather compared to, some of the days prior to and after.
The week before
and after
when
we
it got
left.
so bad.
It was, we were pretty fortunate with the weather and pretty fortunate on being able to find them. It was tough for the ladies because, it was in those areas that were really tough for
Deep
them.
water, small feet.
Yeah, but we found one of the days we got in some pretty clear stuff and had a productive day where they were able to find more scallops. So overall, the food was terrific. The company was terrific. I'm glad you sent over, even though you couldn't be there, you sent over all the stuff, and we bludgeoned our way through the Low Country Bowl. And we did that, and we ate. We didn't miss any meals, so we had a grand time. Loved going over to Cape San Blas, and we'll do it again next year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Already got the house, right?
Already got the house.
I'm all in for next year. So anyway, that's a quick scallop update, a technique update. We got some good fishing, some fishing stuff coming up now that we're able to get back out. So let's go ahead and take this break, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We have been able to go, and we're behind still, but trying to catch up quickly on our fishing. And so we were able to get out the other day and ran into a couple. We got some fish pictures here to show you, but then I think, I can't remember if I've shown these or not. Those are my boat, but those are ones that I was out the other day, or a couple of weeks ago maybe, by myself, and happened to pick off, I think those were all on
rubber baits.
Yeah, they were all plastic baits. And you can see that hanging out of his mouth there. That's a separate one, and yeah, there it is, a lot better shot using those Texas-eyed jig heads, and that thing stands up. It gives it such tremendous action that's just something you got to do. Let's look here. We'll have to talk through this video, but last week?
Yeah, it was last week. We were fishing and hadn't got anything yet, and had something come up behind it, and I think the fourth time that he struck it, finally hooked it, and it was, it took like 3 minutes to get this, 4 minutes to get this fish in. It was, and I knew, of course, that it had to be, and we both said at the same time, it had to be foul hooked, because there was no way, unless it was a submarine, that it could continue to pull and pull. And you can tell when I'm holding the rod the way I'm holding it, the weight, and just from fishing for so long, you know how much strain you can put on your line. And plus two, not knowing if it was a big trout, you go to pull too much, and you're gonna pull the lure out of the face. And so,
while we're talking about this was early. You can see in the morning. This was the first one. We had great tides, and this fish is actively feeding. This was top water, and like you said, it was the 4th time. But what's the key to that with a strike and a miss?
Well, for me, with the redfish, you got to keep working it.
That's
keep,
for everybody.
Keep moving it. Don't, I get a hit, so people immediately reel it in, and then, I better cast again. No,
or stop moving
or
it,
stop moving
it.
Sit. But now a trout, something will come up and hit one that stops. And I don't know if it's coincidental or what, but when you fish for 50 years and it happens most of the time, I don't think it's coincidental. But the redfish, you got to keep moving it. And so I didn't know what I had until, with the girth, I thought if it was a trout, it had to be a 10-pound trout, because there's no way they can pull like a redfish. So it was a good size red that just continued to just run like a
and another thing you notice there, and we're in one of the entrances to some backwater areas, but you get hooked up like that. The first thing really we do is put the power pole down, because that keeps you from drifting into other fish that are there. It gives you a little bit more control over the fish as far as working him, trying to bring him to the right side of the boat and that kind of thing. So the power pole is always in play, especially in skinny water. It kind of just helps you not to mess up any other fish that are in there. At this point, just worried about this fish dying of old age. This went on for what, 4 minutes?
I don't know, and it's not a giant redfish, but it just really pulled, and you can tell when we finally get it in the way if we do get it in. Keep the suspense going. That it was foul hooked, and there was really no pressure, and here I am walking around the boat because it keeps going and going and going. At this point, we know it's a redfish.
This fish.
Question of getting it up to the boat, and
he went under the boat. He went around the boat. He did everything, and that's the expert netting job there that sealed the deal. But like I said, it's not.
It was a very, very thick fish. It had some serious shoulders on it. You see,
and the cigar is the key for those of you who don't know. If it's slow, you need to fire one of those up.
But it was hooked right up under the belly. So that was the.
That was a pretty decent fish. He's hooked.
It was a 6+
good
pound
fish for you.
25
good
inches.
Fish for you. But and I think that's him laying there, I believe.
That's
or that one of mine.
No, that's a different one.
Yeah, that's one of mine. That's another one of mine that I accidentally. That might be him. I can't remember.
No, that's the second one. That's the one that was laying in the net.
Oh, okay.
We only had 2.
Yeah, and it started off really hot, but when you've got a big fish or you've got a foul situation like that one was, and he was so aggressive that he just kept hitting at it till he was all over it, and that's how he got foul hooked. But controlling that fish and what you're saying, and also making sure that your drag is set properly. You know, if it's too heavy and you're not letting him take anything, you've got a chance of those hooks straightening out or pulling out, you know, or just breaking maybe that monofilament anyway. So you got to control your drag, set your drag before you start fishing, but you know, it's adjustable. So if you need to move it while you're fishing, that's fine. And another thing that I think we said in the past is if you want to preserve your reels and those drags, at the end of the day, when you're done fishing, back the drag all the way off. Because if you leave it on there and you have that hard pressure on the drag system the whole time and those discs, it can wear them down, and that's why you have problems with slippage and have to replace it and things like that. So just at the end of the day, back it off. Just remember to tighten it to where you want to before you start fishing, because Dalton and I, my son, were fishing a tournament, and and this was several years ago, I think he was still in high school, he went to set the hook on a nice strike, and he had not tightened it back up. And, you know, of course, wound up with him shaking it off and losing it. He was ticked off all day. We lost that tournament by a short margin. So, all right, we're going to take this quick break, come right back. All right, welcome back. You have one more?
Yeah, one more tip. And people don't realize, or some don't, but should. You notice I'm sitting there holding the rod, and I've got it up high, okay? It's not to be grandstanding or to you know, there's a reason for it. You got it up high, you got a fish, and that particular case, the fish was hooked and fouled. Fishing in skinny water, 1.5 feet, the grass is high.
Yep.
Guess what? That fish is tearing through all that stuff with those hooks on the bottom. He can rip the hooks out by hanging it on all the grass. So keeping it up high, you got a better chance. If I had that fish, guarantee you, down here, and I'm reeling it, he's going to burrow. He's going to rub the hooks out of either his face,
you know, it's the
or
same
his stomach.
thing with a big fish. It's not foul hooked. That's the first thing he's going to do is try to rub that off, and you've got to keep the rod high, try to keep his head up and control his head. The other thing that I want to continue to talk about is you have an extended fight like that, which was, I think, around 4 minutes or so.
You're wearing a hole.
And he was worn out. You've got to take your time and revive that fish, and you know, get him swimming again good before you before you just throw him back in the water, because redfish will give you all they've got, and that's with any of them, you know, that are any size at all. Give them a chance, hang on to them, move them back and forth in the water till he starts moving around or she starts moving around, and let them go.
Well, it's just the opposite of a big bass, though. You know, a big bass, you always see the guys keep the rod down because they don't want them jumping. Because when they come up, they sit there and spit the hook out. You know, in this particular case, we're only in a couple of feet of water, so it's not going to be this, you know, porpoising jumping in the out of the air trying to throw the hook. So
they're doing just the opposite.
Just the opposite.
Running
so
their
just
head
remember where you are and what you're doing, and there is a reason for holding that rod up high, and it's to keep it, because there's so much, you know, there's grass there that's barely an inch or two under the water. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, but anyway, this is getting exciting. We're getting close to October. The humidity's down. The water temperature is coming down. The fish activity is coming up. Okay, they're like everybody else when it's too hot, and we were out there 90+ degree water, you know, back. The fish are sluggish and everything else. So, you know, now they're getting more active. This is prime time to pull out the top water early and late. And as long as, you know, the sun doesn't get too high, because I think everybody knows that by 9:30 or 10 o'clock, if you got a really pretty day with a big high sun and those fish looking up at it, it's difficult. Makes top water difficult during the day. However, if they continue to hit it like that one day we fished till almost noon, that was 3 or 4 years ago, throwing top water, and they were just so hungry and feeding it, they were hitting anything. They were hitting sound. I know they couldn't have had seen it that well. But hey, if I'm throwing it and they're continuing to hit it, I'm not changing it just because that's what you're supposed to do. But right now is an exciting time.
The works don't fix it.
Yeah. So, get out there early or late still, depending on the tides, and especially if you're trying to fish topwater, and vary the speeds. Sometimes they want a bait running away from them, and sometimes just that slow, cripple type bait will do it. If you start getting any strikes, do not stop. Continue to move it. Continue to move it. So I just wanted to mention a minute right here at the end. A lot of you know that I went on my 40th anniversary. Donna and I went to France, which I did not want to go on except for one thing. But I have to admit that we had a tremendous time. But we took one of those Viking cruises, and the reason I went, so to speak, was where we turned around on the Seine River to head back to Paris was in Normandy. And of course, both of our fathers were involved in World War II. Yep. Dad was not, and Bill Shields' dad actually came ashore there on the second or third wave. I don't remember exactly, but and my dad was in the air dropping bombs prior to the invasion, and then dragging gliders in after that. And of course, being a history buff, but I actually got to stand on Normandy Beach, and then visit the United States Cemetery over there. And when you're standing there on the beach and you're looking at 300 yards of beach with no cover that these brave guys came through and got up there, the cliffs are high, and they're taking fire from machine guns close, but also from multiple miles away, 5, 6, 7 miles away, with the bigger guns are firing in on those guys. If that doesn't move you, you need to spend some time reading and the sacrifices those thousands of guys made on that day for our freedom is just incredible. It was a moving situation. So we are out of time. Get out there and fish. This is a great time. Have a wonderful day, and God bless.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.